well today we're going to be tackling the front brakes on the Porsche 911 Carrera. I've done the rear brakes so far. The brake wear sensor, I guess message is still on in the instrument panel. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. I've purchased the Techstar, which are the OEM brake pads for the front, same thing I put in the back. And I'm also replacing the wear sensors. The wear sensors were about $10 each. I think from Pelican Parts, and the front brake pads, I actually got a deal on them through Amazon for about $100. They usually go for about $170, like through Pelican Parts or through one of the other sites. So it's a pretty straightforward procedure, removing the 2 bolts from the caliper, and after you remove the 2 bolts from the caliper comes off, and these, since it's the base model, you can't remove the pads from the outside, which would be a lot easier. So these, you actually have to take the whole brake pad, the whole caliper off in order to get the brake pads out. Once from that, you just use a little bit of grease on the edges that slide, and clean up the calipers with some brake fluid cleaner. Sorry, not brake fluid cleaner, just brake cleaner. And put everything back, and it's a pretty straightforward procedure. I'm using a 19mm deep socket, using an impact gun to remove the bolts on the wheels, and then to put them back on. I'm going to use a torque wrench at 96 foot-pounds. For this year, which is a 2010, it was 96. I think further on down the road, I don't know what year, you'd have to look into it, but I know they end up changing it to 110 foot-pounds to torque down the wheels. But I'm still using, for 2010, I'm using the 96 foot-pounds. Since I've had the car, that's what I've always used, and they seem to work. And make sure that you do use the torque specs, because what could happen is if you torque them too tight, like if you use an impact gun or something, or you just torque them too tight, you could warp your rotors. And on these cars, the rotors, they're at least $200, I'm guessing. I haven't looked them up yet. I know the pads are about 180 for the set, for the front, and then 180 for the back. The fronts, for some reason, I've been finding cheaper. But this is going to be just a quick tutorial on how to change the brake pads on a Porsche 911 Carrera 4, which will work for any of the Carreras. This is for the Carrera models, which are the base models. They're not the S models. The S models have different calipers, and those are the red painted calipers. So those are actually even easier to do. So if I ever get a chance on a buddy's car or somebody else's car, then I'll go ahead and I'll do that. But that's a lot easier to do. Not that this isn't easy, but so let me get started. You see the tires. These are the DWS Continental. They're in pretty decent shape. Had them for 25,000 miles. They're nowhere near the wear indicators, so they're doing pretty good. Alright, so right now we're going to be working on getting these caliper bolts. There's one right there, and there's another one right up here. Now, same thing, if you need to remove there's going to be 2 other bolts if you want to remove the caliper eventually. And the caliper just has, not the caliper, the rotors. The rotors have these 2 screws, and usually you have to remove them with an impact, either a screwdriver, impact screwdriver, which you hammer, or with an impact gun. And then you would have 2 bolts in the back in order to remove those. Right now, we're just going to be focusing on removing these pads. This is the wear sensor, and you can see it going in there. And I have new ones of those. You just follow that line. They clip in. With this, it clips in the fronts. They have these clips here, but it goes all the way around and just comes into one of these. So this thing, you just push up, pull the one that you need out, and then put this clip back on. So that's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to work on removing these brake pads. And I'm going to clean all this up while I'm here. Alright, to make things a little easier, I've gone ahead and turned the wheel to the left. This is the right side. So you turn the wheel to the left, it'll give you a lot easier access here. Now I'm using a T55 Torx Bit, and I'm using that with an impact gun. You don't need an impact gun. The rears, I actually use a 250 Torx Bit. It works, but it's not as snug, and you risk stripping the bolts. Now these bolts, I think, are recommended by Porsche to be replaced every time that you do the brake job. They didn't have them in stock at the Porsche dealership. I went there today to get that key lock replaced, and so I don't have time. I have to do this weekend, because otherwise I'm not going to have time. So I'm just going to reuse them. They look like they're in pretty good shape. They're not stripping or anything. You can see here, these are made in Italy. They're Brembos, so they should all say made in Italy. And so let me get started. Now again, if you've been driving the car, don't do this. All these components will be really hot. You can burn yourself. It's been about half an hour to an hour since I drove the car, so they should be in pretty good shape still. And you can probably use a screwdriver just to pry this from up here. There you go, it's starting to come loose. There you go. And you can usually just wiggle these off. Alright. I'm going to get a zip tie now so that I can get some weight off of those cables. And actually I need to unclip this so I'm not pulling at the brake line. I'll go get some zip ties. Alright, well I'm going to use a caliper tool now to compress this piston. Alright, so these pistons are now compressed. I can remove the brake pads now. And I'll just pull it away from the wear sensors. Take a look at these wear sensors and see what they're looking like. Okay, so this one's definitely worn down. This is the one that was setting off. You can definitely see that these are the ones that were setting off the brake wear sensor lights on the instrument cluster. You see this one is just worn down to the wires. So this is most likely what was causing the wear sensors to give me a light. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just clean these up a little bit. Like I said in the other video, these were already pretty clean because I had to clean them in order to do the vinyl wrap here. So we're going to go ahead and just clean them up a little bit more. You can see, I guess, what the other brake pads look like. They were pretty much at the end of their life. So the brake wear sensors did their job. I mean, they're pretty much done. That's what the new one looks like, if you want to compare. But they're both Techstar. Oh, this is the OEM. The OEM component. So what we're going to do is we're going to grease the inside of here, and then I'm going to grease these little nubs. That's where these slide on. So that's where it's actually sliding on. And then from there, I may just grease up also the tops here, because this is another thing that's going to be touching. So I'm going to grease those, and that's about it. Just the top of this. And I'm using brake system grease, and it's a high temperature grease. I've already done the tops here. Just try not to get anything on the actual brake pad itself. These are the new sensors. There's the part number 997-612-77000. And I'm going to be replacing those. I'm going to probably put this on now when I put the caliper in through there, because it gets a little difficult sometimes from the other side. This goes out to the farthest reaching one caliper, and it goes in. They kind of go in that fashion. Actually, no. I'll show you. So they'll actually go in this way, with the small part going towards the back of the pad. So that's how they'll actually go. But you have to put them. This one has to kind of go through that hole first. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that now. So this goes like this. And I'll go ahead and I'll put this. That's how that goes. So this, then you put in the top first. You press down, and then they go into these holes. Just like so. So those are in there. You also want to make sure you grease up these here. I already got a little bit on those. Actually, I'll put that sensor in afterwards. Alright, so those are on. Alright, and then from there, it's just getting them back onto these rotors. And for that, I think I'm going to turn the wheels back to center. Now we're going to go ahead and put that onto the caliper. Now we just got to go ahead. I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn the wheel this way again. Alright, just make sure that they go in easily, that there's not, so you're not cross-starting it. I'm going to hand tighten these all the way down, and then I'll hit them with the impact gun. Actually, I'm going to torque these down. So I'm going to hit them with the low setting for my gun. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit, I'm going to torque these caliper bolts to 63 foot-pounds. You've seen me use this before in my other videos. One good tip is I always do little notes on my phone. I have a notepad or a note document just for each vehicle. So I have one just for the Porsche 911, and then I have all my torque specs on there. So if I can't keep track or I forget, like lug nuts for the wheels, I can pretty much remember in most of my cars, they're pretty much standard. But for stuff like this, I don't remember all the time. So, like I have here in my notes that these are 63 foot-pounds. So I'll go ahead and that's just something easy. I mean, you can watch my videos if you don't remember, and you can grab them off of there, or you can, find them online, or you can do what I do and just keep notes. Once you figured it out, go ahead and take notes for them. So I'm going to torque down these caliper bolts to 63 foot-pounds, and then I'm going to put in the wear sensors. Now the wear sensors I got for I think about 12 bucks on Pelican Parts. And the pads I actually got a deal online through Amazon for 100 bucks. Now they're usually about $170, but I found them for $100 on Amazon, shipped to my door, so you can't beat that. Make sure these are all the way in there. R63. And you can see that the impact gun didn't over torque them, and that's what I'm trying to do. I think the lowest setting on this impact gun, which is, you know, here, you can see, if you hit that it'll tell you 1, 2, 3. I think the first one's like 30 pounds, 70 pounds, and that's up to 200, I think. And this is just non-stop. So I use the lowest for that, stuff like that, so that I can torque them down afterwards. For the wheels, I use the second setting because it doesn't go past 75, and I need to torque them down to 96. Alright, so there you have it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put in the new sensors. Now they go with this side inwards. You may need some pliers or a. Usually I can just do it with my fingers. So that goes in there, and then this one here goes in right into here. And they're in, and this just gets held into place there. This goes here, and it gets clipped here, and you just follow it all the way around. And this is the old one here, so you can follow it and unclip it wherever it was, so that way you know where it corresponds to. Now this here goes that. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with one hand. Put this down. There you go. So that's there. And there's another one back here. So I'll have to remove that one too. Now that comes around here. I'm guessing this is a speed sensor up top, but we're actually replacing the bottom one. So you lift up this clip, yank this out, just wiggle it out, and we'll plug the new one in. I don't think it matters which way goes where, and I don't think it makes a difference. Just make sure it goes all the way in. It's got some rubber to keep the water out. And then once it's in, clip that back and you're done. So this wheel's done. We'll get rid of the twist ties, and I'll put the wheel back on, and that's pretty much how you replace the brake pads on a Porsche 911 Carrera 4. This is just the base model, so any Carrera, as long as it's not an S. The S have different style calipers where you remove it from the top. You remove the brake pads from the top. You don't actually have to remove the caliper. So in this one, you do have to remove the caliper. On this car, I never had the brake fluid reservoir overflow. I've done all 4 of them now, and I've always checked the brake fluid. That's why the hood is up, so that I can check the brake fluid reservoir. And none of them has it overflown. They're overfilled, whatever the wording is. So I don't know. You know, you have to kind of analyze that with your own vehicle. you can keep an eye on it. When you're compressing the piston, you can kind of go check to see if that reservoir is overfilling or overflowing. Sometimes you can remove the cap in order to release some of the pressure. But like I said, I haven't had any issues with this. So in my case, for the 997.2 Carrera, I didn't have to. So now the last step here is to just pump the brakes several times so that it engages, get the air out of the lines. So once you do that, you'll be able to drive the car off. So I'm going to end my video here. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side also. So I just want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and thanks for watching. Until the next video, take care.